Run for Congress. I'm a college professor with a strange voice, a Yankee accent, an unusual name for Georgia, running as a Republican in the middle of Watergate against the dean of the Georgia delegation. And I got 48.5%. People said you couldn't win, they were right. I came back 2 years later, I had put together a great campaign, I was out running, and I looked up one morning in April and realized that Jimmy Carter had just won the Wisconsin primary by coming from behind and carrying dairy farmers who identified with a peanut farmer. And so here he was carrying one of the most liberal states in the country against Mo Udall. And I remember standing there that morning holding a cup of coffee thinking, we're going to have a Georgia favorite son Democrat at the head of the other ticket. And I'm going to have to run all year just to do well enough to survive, to run the third time, because I couldn't imagine a Georgia Republican winning with Jimmy Carter at the head of the ticket. I ran the best campaign of my career. By election day, and this happens to you with your candidate, we had done so well, it was so exciting, it felt so good. I really thought we had a chance to win. I went down to the Neva Lomason Library in Carrollton, Georgia. I taught at a state college, very similar to West Liberty. And I went down to the Neva Lomason Library to vote about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm standing there thinking about could I win, and I suddenly figured out that the 4 people immediately ahead of me were all in their 80s or 90s and had come from the nursing home in order to get revenge for Sherman's march through Georgia. And I thought to myself, what are the odds that they are going to split their ticket and vote for a Democrat for president and vote for a Republican for Congress? And I thought, this is going to be a long night. Well, I went from 48.5% to 48.3%. I came back, it was just barely good enough I could run a third time. I came back to run a third time. The incumbent retired. The Democrats had a primary and a runoff and finally nominated a millionaire woman state senator who was trying to steal all of my issues and pretending that she was a very conservative, sort of a Goldwater Democrat, that's how she described herself. And in mid-September, having been running for 5 years, my consultant came in and said, well, I have bad news and good news. The bad news is, with 6 weeks to go, you're down 51-37, having run for 5 years. You're 14 points behind. The good news is we have 2 issues, welfare and taxes, which if we use them, we should beat her. But you have to be prepared to gamble everything on these 2 issues because we only have enough money to buy 2 ads. We can't afford to have 6 ideas, which have been my techniques to have lots of ideas, so you can imagine. But I was faced with live or die. We ran the ads, we beat her, I won 54-46. I get to Congress. Now, it's taken me 5 years. I've had to learn constantly. I've had to really think through this whole business of self-government. I get to Congress, and in December of 1978, I go to see the chairman of the Congressional Campaign Committee, and I said, you know, we've been in the minority for 24 years. Maybe we ought to have a plan to get to be in the majority. He said, that's a great idea. Why don't you chair the planning committee? So here I am. I've not even been sworn in yet. And I enter my freshman term chairing the planning committee to become a majority, which turned out to be a tremendous education because in 1979, Margaret Thatcher wins in Great Britain and we get to work with her people. And in 1980, Reagan is running and we get to work with them. So as a freshman, I was getting this wonderful exposure. We gained 33 House seats. We gained control of the Senate. Reagan wins a huge victory. But we didn't get a majority. So I kept working at it. 82 was a bad year. We had a deep recession. We had reapportionment go against us. We ended up losing 29 seats. And so I tried to create a majority in 80, 82, 84, 86, 88, 90, and 92. So I had 7 consecutive failures. Finally, in 1994, we learned every 2 years. We'd evaluate what went wrong, what do we have to change, how do we do it differently. Finally, in 1994, it all lined up, and we won a majority. People said, that was a great night. Yeah, but the previous 14 years were not all that much fun. The point is, As you think about economic development, as you think about the future of the region, the future of the community, you have to understand that after you have a big dream and after you begin to work at it, you got to learn every day until you figure out how to get it to happen. The fourth thing I'll say to you is each of you ought to do things you enjoy. People come to me and say, what should I do for a living, or what should I do for a career? I always ask them, what do you enjoy? And the reason is, you cannot work hard every day unless you like it. That doesn't mean it has to be happy talking, but it does mean you have to have a deep sense of satisfaction that what you're doing is worth doing. You have to get up in the morning enjoying it. I try to remind people, America is a very unusual country. America allows you to find a hobby that you can convince somebody to pay you for 40 hours to do. So you can then spend the next 40 hours working on your hobby. So foreigners think you work 80 hours a week, but you actually get to enact your hobby. Think about Tiger Woods. Watch sometime how often he shows up for the next golf match. And then say to yourself, why does he do that? Well, there's a reason. He likes playing golf. And I'm half Irish. I love giving speeches. So people say, we have an opportunity for you. How'd you have to go to Wheeling and give a speech? I go, could I do it now? I'm available immediately. And so you've got to find the things you like doing. When you have a team the size of this room, if you decided to work together as a team, you'll have an enormous range of talents. And you need to find out what each talent's good at, what they really like to do, and use them at the things they like. Finally, you have to be true to yourself. And the reason we've developed that over the years is you can't please others. And in the end, life is between you and God. And you've got to actually find a way to live the life you are, to be the person you have to be, to grow into the community you need to be. You can't be somebody else's community. You can't live somebody else's life. I think this concept of 5 principles is very important. But it doesn't mean that life is necessarily easy. Part of the genius of America is that we make it okay for life to be difficult. We make it okay for people to get back up. Unlike almost any other country in the world, you can fail in the U.S. and get back up and start over. You can go bankrupt and come right back and try to do it again. You can create opportunities in ways that people never dreamed of. It's a very important part of who we are and how we operate. We're a country which offers you an opportunity, not a guarantee. And we're a country which creates the potential that you have to go out there and work at.